Beneath the frozen Yukon sky, disaster strikes with no warning. A deafening crack tears through the night, and the walls of Parker Schnabel's cut explode outward, sending a tidal wave of ice and gravel crashing into the pit. Machinery vanishes under the cascade, headlights flicker in choking clouds of dust, and men scramble for their lives. In the chaos, Parker makes a desperate leap from the collapsing edge. Seconds later, the ground where he stood plunges into darkness. Cameras catch the madness as dozers are swallowed whole, sluice nines crushed, and crew members pull each other out of the sliding muck. For a heartbeat, silence settles. Then a murmur ripples through the shaken camp. Something glitters beneath the rubble. What should have been the end of the season suddenly looks like the beginning of something far bigger. Accidents don't usually reveal fortune, unless the Earth itself is tearing open a secret. By floodlight, the crew digs into the wreckage and stumbles on the unthinkable. This isn't ordinary Yukon pay dirt. Parker wipes the gravel clean with his gloves, and heavy gold chunks, thick and jagged, glisten in the fractured permafrost. These aren't flakes, they're boulders of wealth, the kind miners dream of but never see. His geologist runs frantic assays, struggling to steady his voice as the numbers roll out. Richness levels dozens of times higher than anything recorded on the claim. Old survey maps show no sign of such a deposit. It's as if the collapse ripped into a hidden vault sealed off for centuries, a vault no one even knew was there. And if you want to follow Parker through every twist of this high-stakes discovery where fortunes rise and lives hang by a thread, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe right now, because what happens next is the kind of Yukon story you won't want to miss. Some of the crew whisper, this gold was waiting to be found, fated to reveal itself. Others mutter that it was hidden for a reason, that striking it might have awakened something better left untouched. Beneath the floodlights, the camp stands divided, staring into a glittering abyss that seems less like a discovery and more like a warning. Days of frantic test runs follow, machines roaring through the frozen muck as Parker tries to grasp the scale of what lies before him. When the tallies come back, the weight of it nearly knocks him off his feet. The newly exposed zone could hold an astronomical $45 million in gold. One strike, just one, dwarfing even his greatest cleanups, rewriting his entire career in a single discovery. The crew cheers, some already counting their share of the fortune, but Parker's face stays grim. He can't shake the memory of the collapse, the seconds when his life nearly ended. What's the price of $45 million if you don't live to see it? He mutters half to himself. And already, word is leaking beyond the camp. Rival miners whisper of Parker's mother lode. And in the Yukon, gold like this doesn't just attract fortune, it attracts enemies. The whispers gnaw at him, mixing with the image of walls buckling and ground swallowing machines whole. Parker needs answers, not numbers. Something to explain why the strike feels less like luck and more like a warning. So he leaves camp behind and drifts into Dawson City, seeking the voices of men who've seen more seasons than he has. In a dimly lit bar, the air thick with smoke and old timber creaking underfoot, veterans lean across the table, their voices low, their whiskey glasses trembling in calloused hands. They tell him stories every miner in the Yukon has heard, but few repeat out loud. The tale of a lost lode that swallowed entire crews a century ago. According to the old-timers, it wasn't just a strike, it was a curse. Gold so rich, men lost their senses, digging until the ground itself betrayed them. They described walls collapsing without warning, frozen gravel flowing like water, and deaths that came swift and merciless. Parker listens uneasy because every detail matches the collapse he just survived. The gold-rich gravel, the sudden caving, the unnatural destruction. Later, back at camp, one of his crew digs up brittle newspaper clippings from an archive in town. The headlines scream warnings from another era. Disaster strikes camp in Klondike Gulch. Miners lost to Earth's fury. Cursed strike swallows dreams and men alike. The articles describe scenes eerily familiar. Lanterns extinguished in clouds of dust, men buried alive while reaching for shimmering veins. Entire operations abandoned in fear.
To the old miners, the land wasn't just dangerous, it was alive, rebelling against those who sought to strip it bare. Parker, normally the skeptic who dismisses superstition as distraction, finds himself staring at the fresh gold in his hands with a gnawing unease. Could this really be the same lost lode buried and waiting? Or are the stories just tales woven to scare greenhorns? The more he thinks about the collapse, the more it feels like he isn't the first man to stand at this crossroads. The Yukon whispers, its frozen winds carrying echoes of men who dug too deep. For the first time in Parker's career, he wonders if he isn't just mining gold. He's fighting history itself, a legacy of greed and death repeating in his cut. At night, sleep doesn't come. He replays the moment over and over. The groan of the earth before it broke, the thunderous roar as permafrost shattered, the blinding white haze of dust and ice choking the air. He remembers the sudden lurch of the ground beneath his boots, how the world seemed to drop away in a heartbeat. If he'd hesitated 1 second longer, he knows he would have been gone. When he shuts his eyes, he still sees the wall collapsing, feels the vibration underfoot, and hears the distant screams of his crew echoing off metal and stone. Around camp, men speak in hushed tones, voices still raw from the chaos. One worker recalls his excavator tipping sideways into the void, metal screeching as he leapt from the cab just in time. Another describes being yanked from the sliding muck by 2 crewmates, his boots torn from his feet as the gravel tried to drag him under. Each story reinforces how thin the line between survival and tragedy was. For many, no payday is worth the thought of being buried alive in permafrost. The mood shifts. What once was a camp driven by ambition now feels haunted, every man looking at the ground as though it could open beneath him at any second. Parker doesn't hide his own fear. In an uncharacteristic moment on camera, his voice cracks as he admits, "This was the scariest moment of my life. I saw the end of it all right there." His hands shake slightly as he rubs the dirt from his jacket. For a man who has faced equipment breakdowns, brutal weather, and crushing debt, this collapse was different. This was personal. He had felt death brush past him. And yet, when he looks at the veins of gold glimmering in the floodlights, something else stirs. He sees not just risk, but destiny. The gold is there for the taking, but it demands something in return. Survival, sacrifice, obsession. It's a bargain every miner knows, but few admit. Parker realizes he may already be paying the price. The discovery electrifies the crew, but not in the way Parker hoped. Half of them are wide-eyed, dreaming of fortunes that could change their lives forever. They talk about new trucks, homes for their families, the chance to never work another brutal Yukon season. For them, this is the payday they've chased through years of frostbite and exhaustion. The other half, though, are uneasy, muttering that no treasure is worth digging in ground that's already tried to kill them. They've seen too many near deaths, felt the ground buck beneath their machines, and they can't shake the thought that the next collapse won't spare anyone. Tension builds like storm clouds over camp. Heated arguments flare in the mess hall, spoons clattering against metal trays as men shout about whether they should push forward or pack up before the earth swallows them whole. Parker listens to both sides but remains unyielding. For him, walking away isn't an option. He spent his life chasing the big strike, and here it is, practically thrown into his lap. Fate doesn't offer second chances. He stands before the crew, voice steady but eyes burning, and says, "We came here for gold. We found it. I'm not leaving it behind." The words divide the camp even deeper. Some rally to him instantly, loyal to a fault, willing to risk everything because they believe in Parker and in the fortune shining in the gravel. Others sit in silence, staring at their plates, unwilling to openly challenge him, but unwilling to dig another shovelful. The Yukon air grows heavy with mistrust, every decision sharpening the line between greed and survival. Machines sit idle longer than usual, not from breakdowns, but from hesitation. Men start watching each other more closely than the sloughs. The collapse didn't just split the ground, it split the camp itself. For Parker, the choice has already been made. He knows the risks, he knows the dangers, and he knows the history. But he also knows the truth. Miners don't walk away from $45 million in gold. Even if the ground threatens to consume him, even if the stories of the lost lode prove true, Parker will dig. He will pull every ounce from the cursed earth, no matter the cost. The Yukon doesn't forgive hesitation, and he refuses to be another name in a forgotten headline. In his mind, the gold belongs to those willing to bleed for it, and he's ready to claim it. But gold, this rich, doesn't stay in the shadows for long. Resolution has its price, and Parker's decision to keep digging sends a ripple through the frozen valleys. The land may be cursed, but it's not the only thing watching him. Strange vehicles appear near the edges of Parker's claim, headlights vanishing into the trees before anyone can get a clear look. At dawn, fresh tire tracks crisscross the snow in places they shouldn't be, evidence that someone's been prowling too close during the night. Whispers